Today we'll be talking on basics of spinal anesthesia. Spinal, which is like, it's a bread and butter of a freelancer, and with so many other techniques coming into place, it's very important to understand the basics of how and what we are doing. We cannot just inject any drug into the spinal. Once given, you cannot withdraw it. And hence, we will just delve into the basics of the spinal anesthesia today, which we will not be completing the entire thing, but the various alternate approaches and various other methods we will be taking next Thursday. Okay, we'll start at the beginning, that is history of spinal anesthesia, the early beginnings by Karl Kohler, an Austrian ophthalmologist, was the one who discovered the anesthetic properties of cocaine in the year 1884. And then William Halsted, an American surgeon who experimented with cocaine in the 1880s. First spinal anesthesia, though, was given by August Bier, a German surgeon who performed first spinal anesthesia on August 16th, 1898, using cocaine. Bier's patient was a 34-year-old man who underwent successful surgical procedure without feeling any pain. Then further development of spinal anesthesia occurred in the year from 19 to 1940s. The introduction of procaine. Procaine was the first synthetic local anesthetic agent which was introduced in the early 1900s. Development of spinal needle, improved designs, Huber point, the pencil needle tips, all we have gone through in the last session. Refinement of techniques with the use of baricity, with the development of different injection techniques, the MRIs coming into MRI studies showing us various the spinal cord at various levels, so which allowed us to redefine newer techniques. No? Even that we will eventually understand that. In the modern era, that is from the 1950s to the present, there was introduction of lidocaine in the 1950s, which was more potent, longer acting local anesthetist. Then others were developed slowly. Development of the combined spinal epidural technique, which offered benefits of both the spinal and epidural. Advances in the equipment and pharmacology was continued. Advances in the spinal needle design, as we had take in the last session of RA equipments. The local anesthetic pharmacology improved with the latest is um, no your ropivacaine and adjuvants, various adjuvants, improving the safety, efficacy, the duration in the spinal anesthesia. The key points here is in 1898, August Bier gave the first spinal anesthetic anesthesia. Then in 1900, procaine was introduced as a synthetic LA. 1950s, introduction to lidocaine, and 1980s, the development of combined spinal epidurals. Now, what is spinal anesthesia? In a lay term, it is like spinal anesthesia is a form of regional anesthesia that involves injecting a local anesthetic agent into the spinal canal to numb the lower part of the body. This is what we say the to the patient, पीठ पे इंजेक्शन देंगे, कमर के नीचे का भाग सुन्न हो जाएगा, है ना? So in our term, it is a spinal block or a subarachnoid block or an intrathecal block, which involves injection of a local anesthetic agent into the subarachnoid space, which extends from the foramen magnum to the S2 in adults and S3 in the children. The LA acts on the spinal nerves coming out of the spinal cord and not into the substance, not on the substance of the cord. Now, for this, you have to understand the anatomy of the spinal canal. What is the structures which we pierce? Now, for all practical purposes, here we are discussing about lumbar spinal anesthesia. Okay, so what are the structures to be pierced from behind is your skin, subcutaneous tissue, the supraspinous ligament, that is the supraspinous ligament, the interspinous ligament, and then the ligamentum flavum. After that, we enter this is the ligamentum flavum, okay? Then you enter the in epidural space, okay? Then beyond that is your dura and then the subarachnoid space. Once you pierce the dura, then you enter the subarachnoid space. This is the transverse section at L4. See, this is the cauda equina. Where are you going from the skin? This is the supraspinous ligament. Okay, this is at the vertebral, your spinous process level. So your interspinous is in between two spinous processes. Okay, so that is the interspinous process, then the ligamentum flavum here, and this is your epidural space, this yellowish, no? Which has the spinal nerves. And after that, you enter this is the subdural space. You can see the dural lining, and then you enter the dura, that is the intradural, intrathecal space here. Okay, you can understand the phylum terminale here, okay, and the ventral and the dorsal root ramus, okay. So the spinal cord usually ends at level L1. See, this is L1. You can see that the spinal cord is ending at the L1 in adults and L3 in children. The dural puncture at higher levels, therefore, it carries risk of damaging the cord. Hence, you have to be cautious. Okay, the three membranes of the spinal cord is the pia mater, the arachnoid matter, and the dura matter. The CSF resides in the space between the pia and the arachnoid, and hence it is the subarachnoid space. Approximately 500 ml of CSF is formed daily by the choroid plexuses of the cerebral ventricles. Only 30 to 80 ml occupied in the subarachnoid space. Okay. Now the epidural space uh, extends from the foramen magnum to the sacral hiatus, surrounding the dura mater anteriorly, laterally, and the posteriorly. Epidural space anteriorly, you have the posterior longitudinal ligaments. Laterally, the pedicles and the intervertebral foramina, and posteriorly, it has the ligamentum flavum. Okay. Then what is the contents of the epidural space? The nerve roots, fat, areolar tissue, lymphatics, blood vessels, including the Batson venous plexus. Now you have to understand that if you have seen the film Avatar, no, um, how the nervous system is floating in a space of liquid surrounding, that is your CSF. The neural ends or the nerve roots coming out of the spinal cord is literally floating in the intrathecal space. Okay, so wonderful creation by God is that there is positive pressures within the intrathecal space, but this has to be maintained throughout all the time, like a shock absorber. This has to be maintained when you are sleeping, when you are jumping, when you're playing, when you're coughing, whatever activity you're doing, this pressures have to be maintained all the time, otherwise it falls down. Okay, there is a headache, and this CSF pressure, the epidural space, it is like a cushioning effect around the dural space. Okay, so that is the spinal cord. So the epidural space has a negative pressure. When you go into the epidural space, you get suck-in reflex, that is the negative pressure, which is this negative pressure is surrounding the thecal space, okay, that is the spinal cord, which is positive pressure, wherein the CSF pressures are maintained, and thereby the all your cranial nerves, the spinal nerves, everything is maintained because of that. So this is the way it is the creation. So you have to, whenever you are entering, it's like when you're giving spinal anesthesia, you have to remember these, how much effect you are uh, breaching this cushioning effect of the epidural space and entering the thecal space. So